Hey, I'm Rachel,
And I'm Amanda, and this is Beyond a Ballot.
powered by DoorDash. Hello and welcome to season 3 of the Beyond a Ballot podcast. I am Rachel here with Amanda. Hello.
Hi, welcome back to season 3.
Welcome back. What a summer it was. How was your summer?
It feels like, was there a summer? It was such a long, beautiful, sunny summer, but fall has been so busy that it feels like summer was a long time ago already.
I know, it's crazy, but it was only a couple weeks. Isn't that wild?
I know, it's
Are
true.
your kids back in school?
They're back in school. They're back at it. And even that feels like, it's so funny. I kept thinking, it's this lazy summer, this like wonderful time when the kids are at the lake and, you get extra time together. And then we're walking to school on the first day and it hits you like we're starting this whole routine all over again.
I know. I felt
like
the same.
Barely finished and then whoop, we're at it again.
I know. I felt like this summer felt especially short, and I don't know why that is. Maybe because last summer was so crazy politically and we just had to come back with the podcast like 5 times, and so it just felt like it went on forever. And this summer we actually got a little reprieve from politics.
I know, it's true, but politics never seems to end. There have been, I don't think that there have been so many political stories that have gripped the nation that I feel like politics is on people's minds maybe now more than ever, for good reasons and for bad reasons. And I think that this session, as we go back, as Parliament resumes, will be an exciting time for a lot of people. Canadians are still feeling the pressures, the anxieties, the affordability pressures. There's pressures around the tariffs. And I think Canadians are going to be looking to Parliament to really be working together to resolve some of the issues, the fears and anxieties that Canadians face. And I think also they're hoping that, at least I'm hoping, and I think the people that I'm talking to are hoping, that there will be a more collaborative approach in the House of Commons in order to put progress ahead of politics.
Absolutely. I think that is the moment where Canada is right now, is there are people on all sides hoping that we go into this parliamentary session and see real progress. Because if you remember last year, we were seeing a stalemate. There was one issue being debated in the House and it went on forever. It went on for months. And now this is really the first opportunity where we are seeing the Canadian Parliament moving legislation forward. And what a moment in time. There's so many issues that we're talking about when it comes to housing being like the number one issue that I think a lot of people are thinking about, and what the leaders are talking about. So there's going to be, I'm feeling hopeful that we are going to see some progress out of the next few months, out of this parliamentary session. So should we dive into it?
Let's do it.
The first day of Parliament. Do you know? So, newsflash: Pierre Poilievre's back. Did you hear?
Yes, he's back.
Pierre Poilievre, for those that missed it, ran in a by-election this summer. It was an interesting by-election. Just to go back a little bit, there was a lot of people on the ballot, but there was a few candidates that really stuck out, including one woman who was a local candidate who people, I think she came in second or third, but people really felt like she was they were compelled by her. She was an interesting woman. I'm forgetting her name, but she did pretty well. But obviously Pierre won by a landslide, but I want to just give a shout out to her and the effort that she made to run against the leader of a federal party and make such a big impact. But he ultimately won. He's back in the House. Earlier this week, it was the first time that he was sitting across from Carney post-election. They had a little bit of time before the election together, but do you know what the first thing they did when they got into the House was?
Tell me.
They shook hands. They sat
maybe
down.
It's the beginning of a new era. We can only hope.
We can only hope.
Can only
Well,
hope.
it was a good sign. And I think, Polyev, to his credit, has come out and said that the conservatives in this session will work with the liberals on issues of importance to Canada. And so I think a lot of us that watched politics, that watched the House, are hoping that is what happens and that we see some actual big measures get passed.
Yeah, and it's been a lot has been done over the last while. Some big things that, of course, Canadians will note was the canceling of the carbon tax, huge one. This is something that the Conservatives obviously advocated for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the first things that Carney did when he took office. Few other things that happened over the course of the last number of months, which will, I think, continue to make headlines. Cutting taxes for the middle class, the Building Canada Act, which was passed, the first national projects, which will begin. That list was announced just last week. Removing the barriers for interprovincial trade. This has been a really important one. For a long time, leaders said it would be impossible to remove those barriers.
Mm-hmm.
This is really important as we contend with Trump's tariffs, the ability to move product across the country and really diversifying relationships with other nations as well. So this government has been really busy already, and they're going to have a stacked and packed agenda for this first session as well.
Yeah, I mean, I remember being in the House in 2008 talking about interprovincial trade. So the fact that we're like sitting at 2025 and this has finally happened, I mean, kudos, but long, long overdue. I think for me, the Canada Builds Act is so interesting. So for those who don't know, a list of projects was put forward by the Carney government that they've created an office that will decide which projects are of importance to Canadians and to the Canadian economy. And those projects that they put forward are very different, very based on different sectors. So LNG, liquid natural gas, mining, and they are all in different provinces as well. So not only is this a big project for the Canadian economy, but it's interesting to also see the roles that the provinces are playing and whether or not Mark Carney will be able to get certain premiers on side. For me in British Columbia, 2 of the 5 main projects are in BC. This week, we saw David Eby out in Ottawa talking to Mark Carney, and to be a fly on the wall for that conversation, I would love to hear it. But the hope is that Carney can get all the premiers on side to make this happen for Canadians.
And we know that there are so many things that the premiers are contending with right now. Issues obviously around job losses as they're related to tariffs. So different sectors that affect different provinces. The government has made investments into some of those specific sectors in order to help those who have lost jobs. But this is a really tricky one because the premiers are all sort of fighting for their share of the pie, understanding that agriculture in one area and auto in another,
that's right,
softwood lumber in another, aluminum and steel in another. So imagine being around that table, really kind of vying for those dollars. This is really key. This is what we're going to hear a lot about as we wait to see where this deal lands with the U.S. and what the new CUSMA looks like as they begin to, renegotiate the entire trade agreement between Canada and the U.S. But I thought what was really interesting was that the Carney met with his caucus before the session and he laid out his 7, I think there were 7 priorities. Those priorities are expected to be like the backbone of the budget, which is coming down on November 4th. So just quickly for our listeners, I'll tell you what he laid out, and then Rach, tell me what you think. So the first one was building economic security with the U.S. He reminded Canadians that Canada has the best deal with 85% of trade tariff-free with the U.S. So Canada still has the best deal, but again, obviously looking to looking toward Kuzma and what could that look like, and diversifying trade relationships with other nations. The second one is the one you already mentioned, major nation building projects. The first tranche of those projects was announced just last week. The third one was bringing down costs. This is the one that's on everybody's mind.
Let's
and
do it.
I think where the conservatives will spend a lot of time really pushing the government. I think that this is really fertile ground for the conservatives. So I imagine them playing in this space, and probably a lot in housing. And affordable housing was the fourth one. So Build Canada housing, doubling the pace of construction over the next decade, and using Canadian lumber and labor and tech. The only problem is houses don't go up overnight. So, you can build a lot of houses, but it's going to take a number of years before you're going to get credit for that build.
Well, do you remember Sean Fraser, who was the former housing minister, came out with like this book of prefab homes that he said, here's 4 designs that the Canadian government is going to put forward. And it was kind of like nostalgic post-war type era stuff.
Yes.
That finally is coming to be with this new housing office that they've created. And so that program's getting up and running. And we're potentially going to see these new prefab designed homes across Canada, which should be an interesting thing to see in your neighborhood. On Kuzma, I just want to make sure everyone knows what Kuzma is. So we had NAFTA, which was a free trade agreement, which was renegotiated when Chrystia Freeland was the trade minister. We remember there was so much drama, them going to Washington. They ended up negotiating this new free trade agreement, the Kuzma. It's up for renewal. And so part of the story that I think a lot of people don't realize when we talk about the United States and the tariffs is that we also have this looming deadline to renegotiate the full trade deal. And that, while we were talking about this in February, negotiating with Trump, was kind of a little ways off. Now, what are we at? September, October. And now it's like, do we just do one giant negotiation with the United States and really try and bring everything together? The only thing is that it's such a big trade deal now, and coupled with the tariffs, it becomes an even bigger thing, and the impact becomes even bigger, and the number of industries are bigger. So this is becoming, it's heating up a bit in the US, but hopefully I kind of feel, and maybe you feel the same, like the White House was kind of trying to do this. They were trying to consolidate these 2 measures in like one big negotiation with Canada.
Yeah, I do think so. And I think a lot is on the line for the prime minister on this one. He has to land this plane, and, Canadians are waiting with bated breath for him and this government to do that. So despite us having the best deal to date, the trade negotiation that is about to ensue, the renegotiation of Kuzma or whatever that looks like, is going to, I think, play a big role in potentially Carney's popularity, his record. These are things that Canadians really expect him to land. So if he doesn't, I think it's going to be some tricky territory for him.
Yeah, I'm having a little bit of anxiety for him because this for a little while was just about Donald Trump and the tariffs. Now I'm feeling like a lot of pressure for him on the major projects, on the housing. There's like a lot of programs that he's setting up that Canadians are expecting to land. And I think that they are expecting it in short order. Like the direness of the moment, the need for change, for help is something that I'm sure PMO is really feeling. And Canadians are still giving Mark Carney runway to do what he needs to do. And I think he's still running on that, which hopefully will mean that we see massive policy changes. And now that the House is back, they can actually do some of that, right? Like all of this takes the House voting on things, even though the Liberals have the majority and they can do it. The voting, the passing of legislation is what solidifies a lot of these big projects. But
definitely.
I wanted to ask you, do you think Mark Carney and Danielle Smith are becoming better friends? Because he did host his caucus meeting in Edmonton. He has been talking to her. They had a great meeting when he was in Alberta, a one-on-one, and he's been, talking about pipelines, which is something that maybe his base isn't so in favor of. Do you think that they are actively trying to bring Alberta back into the conversation federally?
I mean, I would like to think so, and I would hope so. I did think it was remarkable that when he announced the first tranche of major projects and pipelines weren't on the list, that Danielle Smith had an extremely tempered response to that. She was like,
right,
no big deal. It's going to be okay. They could land on the next list. And I was like, who is this Premier Danielle Smith? Because we've never seen that side of her. If that had been Trudeau, she would have lost her actual mind. I'm sure of it, because she has never given that much freedom or that much grace to a prime minister, to a liberal prime minister, who did something that she wasn't prepared for. Now, at the same time, he did say that the only way that they would consider pipelines is if they had private investment at the table,
right,
of which they do not have right now. So that project couldn't happen right now. But I thought her response was really interesting. And he doesn't just enjoy a good response from Premier Danielle Smith. He also has another buddy at the table.
Who?
Premier Ford.
Oh, yeah. Well,
Premier
I feel
Ford.
like Doug has become best friends with everybody. Talk about bipartisanship. I mean, I saw a few pictures of him and Olivia Chow this summer.
Tons. They're always at events together.
Yeah, who would have ever thought? Well, you know what? He's really showing us that we can work across the aisle. And
speaking actually of, I just thought that we should mention this, of Doug Ford and Ontario. Big deal happened last week at the Liberal Party AGM, the Ontario Liberal Party AGM.
Oh, yeah.
When Bonnie Crombie, who's been on our show, we loved chatting with Bonnie Crombie.
Yes.
She resigned as leader of the Ontario Liberal Party. And that was a shocker.
Were you shocked? Like,
okay,
what did she get? 57%?
This is why I was shocked, because, listen, it's not easy to be the Ontario Liberal Party right now, right? Like, they lost party status. They had very few seats in the House. They weren't raising any money. They went to this early election. She ended up securing more seats. Maybe not as many as people hoped for, but she took it part of the way there. She hasn't been the leader for that long. I think that they had kind of telegraphed that if she was somewhere in the territory of 60% or more, she would stay on.
Right.
And I think that was the big mistake. Just say, if you get the majority, you'll stay on, Yeah. So when she got 57, it wasn't 60.
It's giving me like Jason Kenney vibes, because he also, definitely. I think, but he had a lower number. I think he was like 51% and then just resigned. And it kind of felt like the interesting thing for me with Bonnie is that she got 57% and then she said she wasn't going to resign, but like reflected on it and later in the day put out a statement that she would resign. It's very sad. And we do love Bonnie. And I had a lovely chat with her. I saw her in Toronto a couple of months ago. And, she really, to her credit, worked hard to try and turn the ship around. Yeah. I think for the Ontario Liberals, this is an opportunity. This is an opportunity to go out and find a new leader, to redefine who they are, and to really think about Doug Ford and the impact that he's had. I mean, his popularity is still high. He is pretty much well liked by most people, like we said, across the aisle.
Totally.
What does that mean for the Ontario Liberals going forward? And like, how do they win back, if not government, at least opposition at this point?
Oh, I think it's so tricky when you have such a popular premier.
Yeah.
He's really managed to paint himself sort of like a moderate, like a centrist, and so he's kind of occupying that traditional liberal space. I think that's tricky. I think it's another leadership race for the Ontario Liberal Party is also tricky. It's an opportunity, obviously, if the right leader comes along. If they make a miss on this one, I would be concerned. But let's see. There will be We have some leadership reviews and races coming up this year. So again, shaping up to be another season of exciting politics in Canada, coast to coast.
We're in a hot one out here in BC with the BC Conservatives. John Rustad's leadership on Monday. The final results will be out. So much talk every day. It's like, what is happening out here?
Do you think, does he maintain the leadership?
Well, ask me in an hour. My answer might change. It's been,
really?
There's some speculation that there are some alleged party memberships that were not done properly, that there's some inconsistencies, potentially people weren't real.
Nobody likes that.
Nobody likes that. It's heating up a little bit. Some caucus members have been out talking a little more about the fact that caucus maybe isn't all aligned with him. But we have to remember the BC Conservatives are like Canada's newest provincial party. They never existed until last year.
Totally.
And so they're defining themselves at the same time this leadership race is happening. And there's some grumblings and there's some organizing out here. So who knows? Who knows what could happen in British Columbia? We always have crazy politics. Season 3 of Beyond a Ballot continues to be powered by DoorDash. Just like we go beyond politics, DoorDash goes beyond delivery, championing people, stories, and communities across Canada. This season of Beyond a Ballot, we're shining a light on the women whose voices, ideas, and leadership continue to shape the cultural fabric of our country. Work that is both personal and powerful, and reminds us that impact isn't measured only in headlines, but in the everyday ways communities grow stronger. It's a mission that aligns closely with DoorDash's commitment to elevating small businesses and expanding opportunities for women entrepreneurs across Canada. We will share some of the impactful stories that power the DoorDash platform, whether through women behind the small businesses who enrich your community or the dashers that deliver virtually whenever you need, straight to your door. Stay tuned for a season of stories that capture the scale, the spirit, and the strength of women's impact, powered by DoorDash. Okay, can we dive into another, not resignation, but change in job?
Oh, I know who you're going to say.
Who am I going to say?
Chrystia Freeland.
Chrystia Freeland.
Yep.
She is the headline maker all the time.
Really? I mean, wow.
Yeah, she's redefining herself all the time, honestly.
A lot of headlines.
Yeah. So tell us explain to us what's happening with Chrystia Freeland this week.
So let's take it back. If you recall, going way back to December, Chrystia Freeland announced that she was going to be resigning from her post as finance minister. And what that created was this snowball effect of what ultimately became the next federal election, Trudeau's resignation. Some people would say that, that wasn't the catalyst. I think it was the catalyst for all of those things.
Totally.
So she became a really pivotal person. Then she decided to run for leader herself. Carney got into the mix. We also know the prime minister is the godparent of one of her sons. So it's very complicated. They're very close. She lost that leadership spectacularly. And I think that was a big surprise to her and the party faithful who backed her, because she didn't get a lot of MP support off the top. She wasn't able to create kind of that groundswell, that movement that was required. I think Liberals were really looking for a new face. I think that they really believed that Chrystia Freeland would represent kind of the old guard, and that it would be a big opportunity for the opposition to paint it that way. Anyway, so she decided to stay on after the leadership race. She was part of Carney's cabinet in a reduced role. And I think that everyone felt at that moment that her time may be limited. She is clearly an extremely ambitious, extremely brilliant woman. I worked with her on her original nomination to be a member 12 years ago.
Crazy.
So she served the country for 12 years.
That's crazy. I didn't realize it was that long.
12 years.
Wow.
And then, kind of stunned everybody when she when she resigned her cabinet post just this week. She will ultimately, she's not going to run in the next federal election. She'll ultimately give up her seat, and she's going to be the special envoy to Ukraine.
Okay, so let's just clarify this, because I was getting a ton of questions about it.
Yeah.
She is still a member of parliament. There is going to be no by-election.
Well, not yet. But what she did say is that she's working with her riding association to find the right time, and ultimately there will be.
Oh, okay.
Yes. So that came out, I think, today or yesterday.
Yeah. Okay.
Or
so
a couple of days ago.
there will be at some point a by-election. She will resign the seat, just not yet.
Eventually, just not yet.
Okay.
But she's no longer a cabinet minister. She's currently an MP.
I'm just thinking, no, I'm laughing because like we finally got everybody back in the house. Like we had the by-election in Alberta, Pierre's back, everyone's seated. And then one day into it, she decides there's going to eventually be a by-election. It's like, when can we ever have a full house?
It really never ends. And I think what is also, so part of this news story that's been percolating is that there's a couple of other members of the caucus who there's some rumblings that they too will move on. And that would be Blair and Wilkinson. So I think all eyes are kind of on the Liberal Party right now, on the configuration of caucus and who may be in for the long haul and who may be taking a stage left.
Okay, so Bill Blair and Jonathan Wilkinson, both former cabinet ministers, not cabinet ministers under Mark Carney.
No, but very, I would say, like important members of caucus, longtime liberals, liberal members, and, people who recognizable faces within the Liberal caucus. So, depending on what happens with them, there's a numbers game at play, right? Like how many sitting Liberals are there? How many by-elections do you want to be? Not many. You definitely don't want to have many by-elections. You don't want to concede those seats. Those seats are going to be really, really important.
I think this is also interesting, though. It's something that I was talking about on TV last week, is the shift in Mark Carney's governing style as opposed to Justin Trudeau, and how we've seen it, especially on like the environmental issues, that there have been caucus members that have come out, like Stephen Guilbeault, who's a big environmentalist, has come out and said, I don't align to Mark Carney's environmental policies. And so I think there also is like a growing pain when a new leader comes in and there's a caucus that has been under a different leadership, especially when we're dealing with people that are aligned to different policies. I mean, I think of Bill Blair, I think of like tough on crime. I think of Jonathan Wilkinson, who is the environment or natural resources minister. Maybe he's not aligning with Carney. Not to say that's why they're going. They've been there for a long time. But I think it is also like a moment in Carney's leadership where he's now defining who he is and what his policies are that might make the caucus also think, okay, like where am I politically right now as a liberal?
Yeah. And I think it's interesting that, I don't know, like there's been a lot of chatter about how do you define Mark Carney? Where does he sit on this political spectrum?
Totally.
And a lot of people have said this is like a progressive conservative government. I wouldn't go that far, but I'm not going to go that far.
I kind of like it.
I know a lot, but it's been, I think that when you make decisions that push you further toward one side or the other, you're bound to have caucus members who are not going to align with those decisions.
For sure.
And that's part, I agree with you. That's part of the growing pains of developing your style of leadership. It's part of the growing pains of a brand new caucus, new members, veteran members coming back together at the table. And also, I think, really trying to define yourself as not Justin Trudeau's government.
Right, exactly. And I really also think that Mark Carney, like we talked about, is in such a moment where we need strong leadership. Like this can't be let's debate where the Liberals stand on this and then try and govern like that. It's like he's putting forward, this is my line, this is what I want to do, this is how I want to accomplish it. And I often think like I know there's so much speculation on what he'll do and how long he'll be prime minister, but in my mind, it's kind of like he's in it to do it, and once it's done, like that's what he wants his legacy to be. And so when you're that strong in your positioning and that's your leadership style, which is great, I mean, hopefully that'll translate into big projects being built and housing and all these things that he's promising. But it also makes it harder to have a giant caucus, a majority government, because you have so many different positions.
Totally.
And especially when that leadership style is different, like we talked about, that just bubbles up even more. Okay, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
This session,
yes.
What are you looking for with the Liberals this session? Like, what do you think their message needs to be to Canadians? What do they need to be done? Like, what do they need to accomplish?
That's a good question. Like, I think, interest rates went down again this week.
Yes.
As a result of a slowing economy. And I think that Canadians are feeling we talked about this a little bit, the anxieties and the pressures related to the Trump tariffs. But I think that there's a bigger undercurrent of anxiety. And that is the huge divisions that are happening in the US, which is so closely tied to us in so many ways. It's not just the economic security between the two nations, but it's also the relationship that exists between them. So when you're looking south of the border and you're seeing these massive divisions that feel like impossible to bridge, I think strong leadership here is really going to matter to quell some of those concerns that Canadians have. So I think it's walking a tightrope between the affordability issues that Canadians are facing and showing them that work is being done on their behalf and not falling into the BS antics of sessions past, but really working together in a multi-partisan way to put progress before politics. I think that matters. Yeah. But I also think it matters to a lot of moms who are probably listening right now, who are hearing about, school shootings south of the border and this relentless anger, this ugliness, and worry that it's going to creep in here. And our leaders, I think, it's incumbent upon them. They have a very important job to do.
Absolutely.
To not paint our issues with the same brush.
Amen. God, yes. That's what I've been trying to say all week, is that I feel very lucky that our leaders, we like to say that we're very far apart on political issues. Luckily, I think we're actually pretty close. We're like minute details that we're off
for
on.
Sure.
But
doesn't it make you happy that we are? Like, God,
100%. I mean, just to relate to what's going on in the United States, like looking at our gun policy and how aligned the majority of Canadians, I mean, obviously not everybody, but the majority of Canadians are on the fact that like most guns are illegal, handguns are illegal. I think that gives some solace to like, we have Canadian values that are define who we are as a nation. And I think there is a commitment to those values and continuing those values. But in terms of the Conservatives for this session, I think it's almost the same. Like, I really think that Pierre being back in the House, part of what they are going to have to do, and this goes back to that handshake, is to show that the opposition recognizes this moment, the importance of this moment for Canada. This is about getting shovels in the ground, getting houses built, and ensuring that the government has what they need in order to do that. I think there's a fatigue of politics right now, and people want to see stuff get done. Let's get this stuff done.
Absolutely.
And I think it's not in the best interest of the Conservatives to be the people standing in the way of that. With that said, we will see them, try and juxtaposition whatever they can and hold the government to account. That is literally their job, the opposition. Yes. So I don't know that we will get to a point where they're not pointing out any faults of the government. But I do think when push comes to shove, that we will see them voting on things that ensure that things get done in this country, and that we try and alleviate some of the building up pressures of the affordability crisis, of the public safety issues, all of these big issues that they're talking about. and try and get it done.
With a really weakened NDP.
Oh yeah.
With very few seats in the House,
Yeah.
currently leaderless. What role does the NDP play? And without their voice, and I think I believe it's actually an important voice.
Mm-hmm.
Without that voice, who's going to occupy that space? Do the Liberals try to? So Liberals have been sort of described recently, as we said, as more like a moving slightly more right. Right is just too far of a word, but you know what I mean. But at the same time, like, are they going to show up on issues like protecting childcare, dental care, pharmacare? Those were policies that they, really brokered with the NDP.
Yeah.
If the NDP doesn't have a strong voice, do the Liberals occupy that space? Do they try to pull from that, what's left of that base as well? Like, that's an interesting dynamic in the House.
Totally. I think at one point I said the Liberals had a majority, but I want to clarify. They
don't
minority.
have a majority.
Yeah. What am I? I'm like thinking, I've been thinking about David Eby and his very slim majority too much. So they have this minority. And I think you make a great point, because something we also don't really remember because of everything we've been through this year is the fact that the Liberals did have that agreement with the NDP for the majority of Justin Trudeau's last term. And so how does that play out now that they don't have that security? At the end of the day, I don't know. I think that is partially, and I think most political scientists would say that's partially why the Trudeau government leaned more to the left, because they had that agreement with the NDP and as some of those big policies, like you mentioned, that came out of it.
Totally.
How does that play out here? Like, what does Carney do if he needs that extra support? I mean, the NDP doesn't want to go into an election. The Bloc doesn't want to go into an election.
For sure. There are places to go for those votes.
Yeah.
That's what I think. I think that they're very safe right now. I think that to your point, there's things that the Conservatives are going to vote with them on. There's things that the Bloc will vote with them on. And there are things, hopefully, that the remaining NDP will vote with them on.
Yeah.
But so I think they occupy a pretty safe space right now for the time being. And as we know, things in politics can change on a dime. We played witness to that.
To say the least.
Over the last little while.
Oh my God. Okay. I have two more
what else?
quick topics that I want to talk about.
Okay.
Number one, the most important topic in the country right now. We saw Elizabeth May announce she was not going to run for the Green leadership a couple of months ago.
Yes.
2 days ago, we heard Elizabeth May is now asking to come back as the Green leader in this country for I believe it's like the fourth time she's done this. It is such a wild ride in that party. But I mean, I say that in jest. To her credit, she's in there. She is leading this party. She has been for a very long time. Mm-hmm. The question is, like, does the Green Party have enough to survive now? If they are still running Elizabeth May as their leader, obviously, in the background, you would assume they're having a hard time finding leadership candidates.
Yeah.
Like, what do they do at this point? Do they just fold and go into the NDP, or I don't know. I also don't think they align really with the NDP.
No.
Anyways, Elizabeth May returns.
Maybe we need Elizabeth May on the show.
Oh yeah, let's just ask
these
her
questions.
Let's
just ask her.
Okay, well, we're gonna work on that. We're gonna bring you Elizabeth May,
because the other question really to Elizabeth May and to the Green Party is, where does the Green movement live now?
Exactly, totally.
Like, where does that fit?
I know.
It's like we've seen this huge pendulum shift on. Mm-hmm. Not only like where Canadians rank that issue in order of importance, but then as associated with that is where then the political parties
that's right
put those issues in order of importance. And I think that for better or worse, depending on which side of the spectrum you land, we are not talking about climate issues
Mm-hmm.
the same way we were 5 years ago, the same way we were 10 years ago when Trudeau's government first took office. So
if you look at some of the polls that are coming out, what issues are important to Canadians, I think the environment is like number 5 or 6 after affordability, safety, housing. Like this issue that was when 2015, when Trudeau came in on a really environmentalist platform, this was like one of the top issues. And now also looking at what we were just talking about with Carney moving right and like potentially looking at a pipeline, like is there room now for Elizabeth May to rebuild this party and actually rejoin the environmentalists together outside of the Liberal caucus, which have been picking up her support? So we'll be watching.
Elizabeth May, we're ready for you.
Yeah, come on down. Okay. Finally, NDP, now that we're talking about them, have announced they are going to be doing their leadership race. This has been interesting already. There's a bunch of different rules. They announced that you can only have signatures from a certain number of cisgender males, which was a controversial policy, something that they're trying. A lot of pushback on that one. Very interesting decision. For me, I was like, well, why are they trying to exclude people even more? We want to bring people in. And I get it. I get why they're doing it. But it was just like, come on, NDP, let's build you up. Let's not fight on this hill. I don't know. What did you?
Oh, NDP. I don't know. Well, and there's so many, like we know so many incredible former strategists too 100%. That have been a part of that party. We had, Kathleen Monk was with us every day as we watch this federal election. Just one of the the best minds in the country when it comes to political strategy. I'm like, where are the strategists now? Well, I don't know what happens.
Where are the leadership contenders? I mean, we've seen a couple of names come out, and I think a lot of people are watching Don Davies, whether or not he'll jump in there, or there's rumors he's going to run as mayor of Vancouver. So
Heather McPherson, probably the biggest name in the long time. Avi Lewis.
Yes.
Heather McPherson in Edmonton, MP.
Yes.
Long time. I don't know how long she's been. Do you know off the top of your head how long she's been?
I don't. She is she's one of the few sitting members of parliament in that caucus. And then obviously Don Davies, who has been a member of parliament in Vancouver for 20 years, maybe more. Like nobody can even remember who held the seat before Don Davies. He's been here so long.
It's kind of like who can capture the magic, the Jack Layton era, orange wave magic.
I have solved the problem.
Oh my God, tell us all.
Wob Canoe, where are you?
Definitely Wob Canoe.
Oh, if that guy, the Premier's ratings came out last week. Who is number one? Never leaves. He's always like the most popular, the most interesting.
I'm with you.
Okay, Premier Canoe, if you are listening, put your name in the ring. I think that would be life-changing for most Canadians.
He's still our premier crush, right?
Of course. I mean...
So there's that.
There's that. We do love a good Wob Canoe. But
we do.
I think, like, sincerely, if you look at the playing field, like, who would capture the hearts and the minds of Canadians and really have that spark that Jack Layton had? And the thing about Jack, too, is that he brought people together. And what Wob has done on a provincial level in Manitoba is really try and take some of those divisive issues and bring Manitobans together. And so I'd absolutely love to see that on the federal stage.
I mean,
could you imagine?
I love it.
Okay, well.
That's the perfect way for us to end this episode.
With our love for Wob Canoe.
Exactly. We know a lot of you love him too.
Yeah,
we've heard you on social media. We know how you feel about Wob.
We love him. Okay, well, we also want to just take a minute because we managed to hit the top of the charts at some point this summer. And we were the number 1 political podcast, the number 3 podcast overall. And we didn't do that alone. We really did that because of you guys. And so we had this wild idea to do an independent podcast and talk to women about politics. And you guys have propelled that forward and been our amazing audience over the last now almost 3 years, which is crazy. So
It's the
thank you
best.
for being here.
The best audience.
The
best
best.
audience in the country. Thank you.
And we have an exciting season 3. We have some stuff coming up.
Yeah. We set the bar high.
Yes.
Ending the season on such a huge high note ratings wise. And in order to keep that bar high, we have lined up some tremendous guests for you this season. You won't want to miss them. We promise we're going to have some, the best conversations in the country with some of the most impressive women and men in the country, and maybe some south of the border. So stay tuned. We have some big announcements coming in the next couple of weeks.
I'm excited. I am very excited to have the opportunity to talk to a lot of these people. So stay with us. We will be back next week.
Thank you for listening. New episodes air every Friday.
Subscribe on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. Follow us on Instagram and find us at beyondaballot.com.